Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be doing a deep dive into something pretty interesting today, and definitely something that you're going to find super useful in your practice, especially if you work with patients with type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about curcumin
Okay.
and its potential for protecting their hearts.
Interesting.
So what we're trying to do today is to go through some recent research and pull out the key clinical points that you can actually use right away.
Yeah, that's what we want to focus on, is what you can actually do with this information in the clinic.
Exactly.
Like, how can this help your patients?
Yeah, actionable stuff.
Right?
All right, so we've got 3 great sources lined up.
Okay.
The first one is Review of the Protective Mechanism of Curcumin on Cardiovascular Disease. And this one really gets down into like the nitty-gritty of how curcumin actually works.
Okay, cool.
Then we've got one that might seem a little off topic, but trust me, it connects.
Okay.
Taming Neuroinflammation, Alzheimer's Disease. The protective role of phytochemicals through the gut-brain axis.
Interesting.
And then finally, we've got a human clinical trial.
Nice.
The effect of curcumin on reducing atherogenic risks in obese patients with type 2 diabetes. A randomized controlled trial.
All right.
So this one gives us some real-world data to work with.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's that's really important because type 2 diabetes patients have such a high risk of heart problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like 2 to 4 times higher than people without diabetes.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So why is that connection between diabetes and heart issues so strong? What's going on there?
Well, it's kind of like a domino effect.
Okay.
You know, when you have type 2 diabetes, you often have these other things going on at the same time, like, abdominal obesity, high uric acid, and then you've got these markers of inflammation that are all elevated, IL-1, IL-6, and TNF-I, and all of those things, they all contribute to atherosclerosis.
Okay, so atherosclerosis, for anyone who needs a quick reminder,
Yeah.
what exactly is that and why is it so bad for your heart?
Sure. So think of your arteries like the plumbing in your house.
Okay.
Over time, stuff can build up inside those pipes and make them narrower. And that's kind of what happens with atherosclerosis.
Okay.
It's this gradual process where fats, inflammatory cells, and other gunk, they accumulate on the inner walls of your arteries.
So basically, it's like a traffic jam in your arteries.
Exactly.
Making it harder for the blood to get through.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does curcumin fit into all of this? This is where our deep dive gets really interesting, right?
Yeah, curcumin is really cool because it's found in turmeric, and it's a real powerhouse when it comes to fighting inflammation.
Okay.
And if we think big picture here, inflammation is a major driver in how atherosclerosis develops.
Right.
So curcumin's anti-inflammatory properties are key here.
I see. So it's like curcumin is tackling the problem right at its source.
Exactly.
And this review of the protective mechanism of curcumin on cardiovascular disease really lays out all the science behind this.
Oh.
It talks about how curcumin works at the cellular level.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep into the weeds, which is fascinating.
I know.
So for example, let's talk about macrophages.
Okay.
These are white blood cells that are supposed to help clean things up.
Yeah.
But in atherosclerosis, they can actually become part of the problem.
Oh.
They gobble up cholesterol and turn into these things called foam cells that contribute to that artery clogging plaque.
Okay, so these macrophages are like little Pac-Man characters gone rogue.
Yeah.
Eating up all the wrong things and making the traffic jam worse.
Exactly.
But curcumin can step in and stop this from happening.
Yes, exactly. That's what's so exciting.
Wow.
Curcumin can actually modulate this process and prevent those macrophages from turning into harmful foam cells.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop there. It also acts on specific signaling pathways in the body that are involved in inflammation.
So it's like curcumin is this master conductor, making sure the orchestra of cells in your body is playing a harmonious tune, not a chaotic one.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's all about keeping those inflammatory processes in check.
And the review article doesn't just talk about macrophages, right?
Right.
It also mentions how curcumin has these positive effects on the cells that line your blood vessels and even the muscle cells in your arteries.
You got it. Curcumin has a lot of different mechanisms of action.
Yeah.
It can trigger autophagy, which is like the cell's own cleaning crew.
Oh, okay.
It helps protect cells from damage, and it even promotes the growth of new blood vessels.
Wow, so curcumin is a multitasker.
It is.
It's working on a lot of different levels to keep those arteries healthy.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me is this concept of cholesterol efflux.
Okay.
Can you explain what that is and how curcumin helps with it?
Sure. So imagine you have a messy room.
Okay.
To clean it up, you need to take the trash out, right?
Right.
Cholesterol efflux is kind of like taking the trash out of your cells. It's the process of removing excess cholesterol, especially from those foam cells we talked about.
Okay.
And curcumin can actually enhance this process.
So curcumin is like the cleaning crew supervisor, making sure the trash is taken out regularly and the cells stay neat and tidy.
I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
We have this other source, Taming Neuroinflammation,
Right.
which is about Alzheimer's disease and the gut-brain connection. It might seem a bit out of left field, But they talk about curcumin in there too.
Right, and this brings up a fascinating question. Could curcumin's effects on the gut microbiome be another way it helps protect the heart?
So we're talking about the trillions of bacteria that live in our gut.
Yes.
How could that possibly be linked to heart health?
Well, this study points out that curcumin can actually influence what kinds of bacteria are living in our gut.
Okay.
And a healthy gut microbiome with the right balance of bacteria is known to reduce inflammation throughout the body.
So it's like curcumin is tending to the garden in our gut, making sure the good bacteria are flourishing and the bad ones are kept under control.
Exactly.
And a healthy gut garden can actually help protect our hearts.
Exactly. It might seem strange at first, but the connection between gut health and heart health is becoming more and more clear.
Yeah.
And curcumin seems to play a role in that.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm dying to hear about that human clinical trial.
Okay.
What did they actually find when they gave curcumin to people with type 2 diabetes?
So this trial called The Effect of Curcumin on Reducing Atherogenic Risks in Obese Patients with Type 2 Diabetes had some really impressive results.
Okay.
They gave 1,500 milligrams of curcumin every day to folks with type 2 diabetes who were also obese, and they tracked them for a whole year.
Okay, so a year-long study, that's serious.
Yeah, it is.
What were some of the big takeaways?
Well, compared to the group who got a placebo, the curcumin group saw some really significant improvements.
Like what specifically? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Well, they saw a significant drop in PWV,
Okay.
which is a fancy way of measuring how stiff your arteries are.
Uh-huh.
Stiffer arteries are bad news, so this is a big deal.
Okay, so curcumin is helping to keep those arteries flexible.
see.
What else did they find?
Their HbA1c,
Okay.
which is a measure of long-term blood sugar control, improved,
Okay.
along with their fasting blood sugar levels.
So curcumin is helping with blood sugar control too. That's
Oh,
amazing.
say, wait, there's more.
Okay.
They also saw improvements in waist circumference, total body fat, and even visceral fat, which is the really dangerous fat that hangs out around your organs.
Wow, so it's helping with weight management and metabolic health too.
Mm.
This is amazing.
Exactly. And remember those inflammatory markers we talked about?
You mean the IL-1, IL-6, and TNF-ICE trio?
Yep, those
Yeah.
troublemakers.
Yeah.
Well, those went down too in the curcumin group.
That's incredible. It seems like curcumin was hitting all the right targets in this trial.
It really was. And importantly, even at this high dose, curcumin was well tolerated.
This is all so exciting. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already and we're just getting started.
I know, right?
What do you say we take a quick break and come back to delve even deeper into these findings?
Sounds good to me.
We'll be right back after a short break to discuss what all of this means for you and your patients. All right, we're back. We've been talking about curcumin and its potential for protecting the heart, especially for people with type 2 diabetes. But let's get down to like the practical stuff.
Yeah.
How do we take all this amazing science and translate it into what we're doing every day with patients?
Right, that's the big question. How do we bridge that gap?
Exactly. So how do we actually incorporate this into our patient management plans?
Well, first we need to remember that curcumin isn't like a magic bullet.
Right.
It's not a replacement for the standard of care, like medications, lifestyle changes, all that good stuff.
Of course, it's all about a holistic approach.
Absolutely. But what curcumin offers is another tool in our toolbox.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like a powerful sidekick
Okay.
that can work alongside those other treatments to boost heart health.
So in a practical sense, how do we actually go about bringing this up with our patients?
Well, it all starts with conversations. We need to talk to our patients about their diet, their lifestyle, and any supplements they might be considering, including curcumin.
It's about empowering them to make informed decisions about their health.
Exactly. And with curcumin, we have a good amount of research to back up its potential benefits. But we always have to tailor our recommendations to each individual patient.
That makes sense. So for example, that clinical trial we talked about used 1,500 milligrams of curcumin per day.
Right.
Is that a standard recommendation or does it vary?
It definitely varies.
Okay.
We need to take into account their overall health, what other medications they're taking, any potential interactions.
Right. It's never a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that curcumin isn't a quick fix.
Right.
Its benefits build up over time working with a good overall management plan.
So patience is key,
Yeah,
both for the patient and for us.
absolutely. And it's not just about saying, take this much curcumin.
Right.
It's about weaving it into a bigger conversation about lifestyle.
Things like eating a healthy diet, getting regular exercise, maintaining a healthy weight.
You got it.
Yeah.
Curcumin can be a valuable piece of the puzzle, but it works best when it's part of a healthy lifestyle.
I think this idea of sustainability is so important.
Yeah.
It's about helping our patients make changes they can stick with.
I agree. That's where the real magic of curcumin lies,
Okay.
in its potential to become part of a daily routine that supports well-being.
It's not just about treating a disease, it's about preventing it.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from managing symptoms to proactively nurturing a healthy heart.
I know some providers might be hesitant to recommend a supplement.
Yeah.
Like, is this really evidence-based?
Right. I understand the hesitation. There's a lot of supplements out there making big promises. But with curcumin, we actually have a solid body of research to back it up. We've seen some of that research today.
Exactly. This isn't about jumping on the latest health trend.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the science
Yeah.
and how it can really make a difference for our patients.
And that's what good clinical practice is all about, making sure our recommendations are grounded in evidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to stay up to date on the research.
Yeah.
Cardiology is constantly evolving. We need to keep learning
Right.
so we can provide the best possible care.
Which is exactly what we're doing here today with this deep dive.
Exactly. By taking the time to really dig into the research,
Yeah.
we equip ourselves with the knowledge we need to make those informed decisions.
And that ultimately benefit our patients.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Providing the best care possible to the people who trust us with their health.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
You know, as we're talking about all of this, it's striking me that there might be some interesting parallels between curcumin's effects on the cardiovascular system
Yeah.
and its role in the gut-brain axis, which we touched upon earlier.
Uh-huh.
Do you think there's something to that?
That's a great observation. There's more and more research showing that a healthy gut microbiome is not only essential for digestion,
Right.
but also plays a critical role in overall health.
Including cardiovascular health.
Exactly.
So by modulating the gut microbiome, as we discussed earlier, curcumin might be indirectly supporting cardiovascular health too.
That's a very plausible hypothesis. It really highlights how interconnected our body systems are. What we do to one system can affect everything.
This concept of interconnectedness is so fascinating.
It is.
It really underscores the importance of a holistic approach to patient care.
Absolutely. It's about looking at the big picture and recognizing that optimal health is like all these systems working in harmony.
So when we talk about curcumin and cardiovascular health, we're not just talking about its direct effects on blood vessels and inflammation.
Exactly. We're also considering its potential to promote a healthy gut microbiome, which can then lead to a cascade of positive effects.
It's like a domino effect,
Right.
where one positive change can trigger a chain reaction.
That's a great way to put it. And that's what makes curcumin so intriguing.
Yeah.
It seems to have this unique ability to nudge multiple systems towards a state of balance.
This is all incredibly promising. But for those of us who aren't microbiologists, can you break down how curcumin actually modulates the gut microbiome?
Sure. Research suggests that curcumin can act like a gardener in your gut.
Okay.
It selectively encourages the growth of beneficial bacteria while discouraging the growth of harmful bacteria.
So it's about creating a more balanced ecosystem.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when your gut microbiome is balanced, you tend to see all sorts of benefits.
Like what?
Reduced inflammation, better digestion, and even improved nutrient absorption.
And all those things can indirectly benefit the heart
Exactly.
by reducing overall inflammation and improving metabolic parameters.
Exactly. It's such a fascinating example of how seemingly unrelated systems in the body are actually intertwined.
This brings us to another important point, the role of lifestyle choices in shaping the gut microbiome.
Absolutely, diet plays a huge role.
Okay.
A diet rich in fiber fruits, vegetables, and fermented foods provides nourishment for those beneficial bacteria and helps to create a more diverse gut ecosystem.
And on the flip side, a diet that's heavy on processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats can disrupt the balance of the gut microbiome,
Exactly.
which can lead to more inflammation
Right.
and increase the risk of various health problems.
So when we recommend curcumin to our patients, it's not just about taking a pill, it's about making those holistic lifestyle changes
Right.
that support a healthy gut, which can then have positive ripple effects on the heart.
It's about empowering our patients to make informed choices that benefit their overall well-being.
Exactly. Every decision we make, from the food we eat to how we manage stress, has the potential to impact our health.
I love how you frame that it's all connected. You know, as we're having this discussion, I'm struck by how curcumin seems to bridge the gap between traditional medical care and more complementary approaches.
That's a great point. Curcumin, with its strong scientific backing and its long history of use in traditional medicine, can really serve as common ground,
Yeah.
fostering a more collaborative and integrated approach to healthcare.
It's about recognizing that there's wisdom in both traditional practices and modern science.
Right.
And finding ways to combine those approaches to get the best possible outcomes for our patients.
I couldn't agree more. It's about taking a more inclusive and personalized approach to healthcare,
Yeah.
one that respects the individual's values and preferences, while still grounding our recommendations in solid scientific evidence.
At the end of the day, that's what we're all striving for, right?
Yeah.
Providing compassionate, patient-centered care that empowers individuals to live healthier and more fulfilling lives.
Absolutely. And as we continue to learn more about the incredible complexity of the human body and how all of its systems are interconnected,
Right.
we can continue to refine our approaches and personalize our interventions to meet the unique needs of each individual.
This has been such a fascinating discussion. I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
We certainly have. We explored the intricate cellular mechanisms through which curcumin works its magic, examined the compelling evidence from human clinical trials, and delved into the practical implications of these findings for our day-to-day patient management.
We even ventured into the fascinating realm of the gut-brain axis, highlighting the interconnectedness of our bodily systems and emphasizing the power of a holistic approach to health.
It's been a truly enriching deep dive.
It really has, and I know our listeners are probably eager to hear more about the specifics of that clinical trial we've been referencing throughout our conversation.
Well, in our final segment, we'll break down the key findings of that trial, providing you with a clear and concise overview of the specific markers that were measured and the statistically significant improvements observed in the group that received curcumin. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so we're back, and we're ready to dig into the details of that clinical trial we've been talking about.
Yeah, let's do it.
The effect of curcumin on reducing atherogenic risks in obese patients with type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
This study really gets to the heart of the matter, showing us how curcumin performs in a real-world setting with actual patients.
Right, it's not just theory anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what actually happens when people take this?
Exactly.
So remember, the participants were obese individuals who had already been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And they were given either 1,500 milligrams of curcumin per day or a placebo pill for a whole year.
Wow, a whole year. That's a pretty long study.
Yeah, it is a pretty significant commitment.
For both the researchers and the patients.
Definitely. It shows how dedicated they were to really understanding curcumin's effects.
Yeah, and the researchers were super thorough.
Oh, yeah.
They tracked a whole bunch of different markers to see how curcumin impacted both cardiovascular health and metabolic health.
Right, they wanted to get the full picture.
Okay, so let's break it down. Starting with the heart health markers. What were some of the standout findings there?
One of the most impressive findings was the significant reduction in PWV in the curcumin group.
Okay.
Now, PWV stands for pulse wave velocity, and it's basically a way to measure how stiff your arteries are.
Okay.
It tells us how fast a pulse wave travels through your arteries.
So if your PWV is higher, that means your arteries are stiffer, which is a big risk factor for heart problems.
Exactly, and the folks taking curcumin saw a significant decrease in their PWV compared to the placebo group.
Interesting.
Which suggests that curcumin might actually help make those arteries more flexible and elastic.
That's amazing. So curcumin is like a yoga instructor for your arteries.
I like that.
Helping them stay flexible and healthy.
Keep them nice and bendy.
Yeah, remember those troublemaker cholesterol particles we talked about earlier? LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, and SDL-DLC, which is like a particularly sneaky type of LDL.
Yeah, those guys are the ones that love to clog up the artery.
Oh yeah, those are the...
Well, the curcumin group had significant reductions in both LDL cholesterol and SDL-DLC.
That's huge because high levels of those bad cholesterols are directly linked to atherosclerosis.
Exactly. So by lowering those bad cholesterols, curcumin is essentially helping to slow down or even prevent that buildup of plaque in the arteries.
It's like curcumin is a traffic cop, keeping those cholesterol troublemakers in check.
Yeah.
And preventing a major traffic jam in the arteries.
I love these analogies.
Now let's not forget about those inflammatory markers we discussed earlier.
Right.
IL-1, IL-6, and TNF.
Oh, the inflammatory posse.
They're always up to no good.
Well, the good news is that the curcumin group also saw significant reductions in all three of those inflammatory markers.
Wow, that's impressive. It really seems like curcumin is a master at calming down inflammation throughout the body.
It really is. It's like curcumin is a peacemaker, diffusing those inflammatory hotspots and bringing harmony back to the body.
So curcumin is not only a yoga instructor and a traffic cop, it's also a peacemaker. This spice is truly multi-talented.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now remember, this study didn't just focus on heart health.
Right.
They also looked at metabolic markers, which are super important for managing type 2 diabetes.
Right, because diabetes isn't just about blood sugar, it's a whole body metabolic condition.
Exactly.
So what did they find in that area?
Well, they found some really exciting results in terms of blood sugar control. The curcumin group had significant improvements in their HbA1c levels, which is a measure of long-term blood sugar control, and their fasting blood sugar levels also went down.
That's fantastic. So curcumin is like a blood sugar regulator, helping to keep those levels in a healthy range.
Exactly, and there's more.
Oh, there's more, okay.
The curcumin group also had significant reductions in their waist circumference, their total body fat, and even their visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat that accumulates around the organs.
So it's helping with weight management and reducing that harmful visceral fat. That's a major win.
It really is. It's like curcumin is giving those fat cells an eviction notice, helping to create a healthier internal environment.
This all paints such a positive picture of curcumin's potential for improving both cardiovascular and metabolic health in people with type 2 diabetes.
It really does. And while we always want to see more research, these findings give us strong evidence to support using curcumin as a complementary strategy in our patient management plans.
I couldn't agree more. This deep dive has been so insightful.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gained a whole new level of understanding about curcumin and its remarkable benefits.
Me too. It's amazing how a simple spice like turmeric and its active compound curcumin can have such powerful effects on our health.
It really speaks to the incredible potential of natural compounds to complement and enhance our traditional medical approaches.
Absolutely. There's so much wisdom to be found in nature and in traditional healing practices. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what we can learn from these approaches.
Well said. So to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive into curcumin?
Well, first and foremost, curcumin shows real promise for improving heart health, especially for individuals with type 2 diabetes. It works on so many different levels, targeting inflammation, cholesterol, and even blood sugar regulation.
And we have solid evidence from a human clinical trial to support these claims.
Exactly. That trial showed statistically significant improvements in a whole range of cardiovascular and metabolic markers in the group that took curcumin.
But it's important to emphasize that curcumin is not a magic bullet. It works best when it's part of a comprehensive approach that includes lifestyle changes and standard medical care.
Absolutely. It's all about creating synergy between different approaches to optimize patient outcomes.
So for those of you listening who want to explore the details of that clinical trial and the other research we discussed, you can find links to all the articles in the episode description below.
And we always encourage you to chat about these findings with your colleagues and explore how curcumin might fit into your own clinical practice.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into curcumin and its potential for protecting the heart. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, you can find more information in the description below.
See you next time.
Stay tuned for more fascinating deep dives into the world of health and wellness.